Good evening. This is Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. This is an update based on the National Hurricane Center's 11 o'clock update on Tropical Storm Nicholas. Nicholas is kind of a fickle little tropical storm right now. It has a broad extent for clouds and rain, but the Hurricane Center is having a difficult time finding the center of the storm because it's elongated and it has these sort of mesovortexes that are spinning around and reforming the eye in different places, or not really the eye, but the center of low pressure. And so this is the way it looks. You can see right here to the right of me, I'll use the arrow to point it out. I'll scoot the map up just a little bit here. This is where the 11 o'clock position is for Tropical Storm Nicholas. And you can see that the tropical storm force winds continue to extend out to the east of the storm. And the forecast track has shifted slightly to the east based on the latest model predictions. Now, I do want to um, qualify this forecast because the National Hurricane Center is indicating that it could change based on where the center of the storm really forms, and they believe that it could form further to the north overnight tonight. So it could be closer to the coastline in the morning, which is why there are tropical storm warnings in effect around Brownsville and just slightly to the north of Brownsville. You can see the radar. I have the radar data turned on, and I'll zoom in a little bit here. So you can see that there's a lot of rain ahead of where Nicholas currently is. You can see Nicholas is way down here, but the rain is already impacting even Galveston, Texas. And some of the rain, based on its interaction with the frontal system today, was falling pretty heavily in Grand Isle, Louisiana. I'm going to show you a couple of damage pictures from earlier in the week of Grand Isle because they could be impacted by heavier rains from Nicholas as Nicholas moves further to the north. So this is the forecast track. It looks like we're talking about a potential landfall sometime tomorrow evening or early Tuesday morning. But having said that, the track could move further to the east. Now remember, the cone of uncertainty is not a damage path, not a damage swath. It's a indication of where the center of the storm is likely to move based on the National Hurricane Center's forecast. And the cone is basically an error cone based on previous forecasts throughout the history of the Hurricane Center over the last several years. And so what could happen here is if Nicholas stays further out over these warm temperatures, they're very warm. Temperatures are in the mid 80s, anywhere from 84 degrees down by where Nicholas is right now to 86 degrees up here. And so there's plenty of energy for Nicholas to strengthen as it continues to move over the Gulf of Mexico. And so what I would like to do is show you, I'm going to turn the weather radar data off here for a second because I want to show you the path all by itself, the track and the cone forecast of where Nicholas is forecast to move. And I'm going to put this a little bit more full screen here so you can see what's going on, and I'll back out just a little bit more. You can see the path, the cone that is forecast. And this is, it's rather troublesome, and I'll tell you why. Because Nicholas has a very large area of precipitation associated with it, and it's forecast to slow down once it makes landfall. Look at this, all the way from Monday night or Tuesday morning here, all the way to 7 p.m. Thursday over central Louisiana. So this entire area needs to be very concerned about very large rainfall amounts that could fall in this area. And I'm talking anywhere from 10 to perhaps 15 inches of rain. I'm going to turn on the Weather Prediction Center. This is located in College Park, Maryland. It's a branch of the National Weather Service. They issue an area of potential rainfall over the next 7 days. And that's what I want to show you here. I'm going to turn that on. Let me find the right file here. the right layer, that is, and I'll turn it on. Here we go. And so this is how much rain is expected to fall over this 7-day period. I'll make it a little bit more transparent here. We can see it, and then I'll zoom right in to the coastline. So along and to the right of where Nicholas is supposed to, or at least forecast to move currently, we're talking about rainfall totals of perhaps 15 inches in this area here. These little circular areas are 15 inches, and over by Louisiana, I'll narrow in here, this is 7 inches in this area. So 7 to 15 inches of rain, and locally more, could fall over the next 10 days in this area of coastal Texas all the way over to Louisiana. And this could seriously impact some of the recovery efforts in southern Louisiana, particularly Grand Isle up towards east of Lafayette, Houma, over to New Orleans. So this is something we're going to have to watch very, very closely, and I would encourage you to keep track of the path of this storm, the forecast path of this storm, and the related rainfall that could fall. We're not comparing this to any huge storms in the past because there's still a lot of uncertainty associated with the trajectory of this storm. But needless to say, there's going to be a lot of rainfall somewhere in this area, from south of Corpus Christi, including just north of Brownsville, all the way over past the woodlands into central and perhaps parts of northern Louisiana, north central Louisiana, down to coastal Louisiana. This could be very significant. And I'm going to turn this forecast off, and I want to turn on the excessive or significant river flood outlook over the next couple of days. This is from the Weather Prediction Center as well, and you can see what it looks like. Anywhere in this yellow is expected perhaps significant river flooding. And then I'm going to turn on the significant weather for day 2. This is for Tuesday. All of this area in red, I'll back out just a little bit here so you can see it. All of this area in red is expected to encounter flash flooding. That means very heavy rainfall rates of 2 to perhaps 3 inches of rain an hour. And we've seen what that develops into. We've had a number of floods in the Atlanta suburbs, the remnants of Ida up towards New York when they had 3 inches of rain in an hour. Some areas totaling 8 to 9 to 10 inches of rain. This is the area where the Weather Prediction Center and the National Hurricane Center basically saying, keep your guard up. If your homes flood normally with a couple of inches of rain, be prepared. Perhaps get some sandbags and start to place them in areas that will ward off some water entering your house. And so that is the significant weather for day 2, and excessive rainfall for day 2 is identified in this area. So along the coastline, there's a very high likelihood of significant rainfall from Tropical Storm Nicholas in this area. And then in the yellow area, there is a likelihood of significant rain. So the Weather Service says there's a slight chance, which is 10 to 20%, but it's excessive rain. So this is the area where it's expected to have excessive rain when Nicholas moves inland. So I mentioned earlier Grand Isle, Louisiana, and I'm going to turn this particular layer off for excessive rainfall, and I'm going to turn the track off from the National Hurricane Center where it shows the current track. I'm going to turn that off for a second. I'm going to dive right down in here into some high-resolution imagery that we have in GeoCollaborate to show you what it looks like in Grand Isle. And this is Grand Isle here. And as I zoom in here, you can just take a look at the area of damage. It's just extensive throughout Grand Isle. Look at all the roofs that have been ripped off. A lot of damage and debris. This was taken from NOAA's remote sensing Division. They fly a King Air aircraft with high-resolution cameras, and they flew this 2 days after Ida made landfall. And you can see all of this damage and debris. Matter of fact, I have pictures from the Air National Guard, or the Civil Air Patrol from Louisiana in Grand Isle, and I just want to show you a couple of these pictures. These were taken last week, and just take a look. Some structures were totally blown away off of their pillars there, their stilts. Others had their roofs completely ripped off, while other roofs were intact, but inside the homes were damaged. So some were just totally blown off their stilts. Look at that. So 40% of the structures are gone in Grand Isle. Another 40% of the structures have to be knocked down because they're unsafe. And the other 20% of the structures may have hope for fixing or rebuilding. So Grand Isle was just devastated when Ida moved through, and the rainfall from Nicholas could seriously impact the recovery efforts in southern Louisiana. We will keep you posted on what's going on with the path of Nicholas, because it will have an impact on recovery efforts in Louisiana. And if you live in areas that flood, make sure you pay close attention. So I'm going to back out here just a little bit and show you the track once more that shows the path, forecasted path of Nicholas. I can go over and show you a little bit of a satellite loop here. You can see what's going on. This is infrared satellite imagery, and you really can't pick out the center of the storm, the low-level circulation. This is really imagery at nighttime, but where you do see these white clouds here, that means that there are thunderstorms that are growing around the system. It's just that the center of the storm is moving around as it starts to consolidate. So it's possible the center of the storm could be a little bit further north by Monday morning. So that's it for the 11 o'clock update. You see in the crawls at the top and the bottom of the screen where hurricane watches have been issued. They've been extended a little bit further to the east, as well as tropical storm watches. So pay attention. We'll keep you updated. We'll give you another update probably around 11 or 12 o'clock tomorrow, Monday, and we'll be watching the storm very closely. I think the big issue with Nicholas is that it could be a prolific rain producer. That means perhaps widespread flooding in parts of coastal Texas and central and southern Louisiana. So thanks for watching. This is Dave Jones with GeoCollaborate and Storm Center Communications. This has been a Fleet Response Working Group Sensitive Information Sharing Environment Update. We update the position of the storms so we can get utility crews into areas to restore power quickly, so they can coordinate, and so states can coordinate to make that transportation easier and more efficient, and also so the communications, food, fuel, transportation, medical supply industries can get into disaster areas once the roads have been cleared. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.